Hey Splinter fam, it's time to talk about proposals again, and as always, it's another bad one, but this time, a little twist. It's got good intentions behind it, but yeah, it's still a bad one nevertheless. We got two proposals, yeah, back to back, which is kind of cool. One is to extend the ban onto like bots into tournaments and balls, which is great, but the other one is to ban helpers out of modern ranked mode, tournaments and balls, and for me, this one's really bad, and I think not a lot of people understand the side effects of it. I'm going to explain the negative side effects of this proposal, which is sad because out of anyone, I'd love for bots and helpers to be out of the game, but this proposal is not the way to do it. I'm also going to explain the good intentions behind it and how it could have been a lot better, as like I said, this proposal could have been so much better and we could have got so much better work done from it, but this, like I said, this is not the way to do it. So sit back and get ready for me to talk about the proposal, but before then, like the video if you don't like battle helpers, and comment below what you think about the proposal, and subscribe for more Playtime content. And let's get into the video. Like with all proposals, people are going to have different opinions and different voices and different intentions behind their voices. And for me, it's definitely like an anti-bot one, because I've been fighting for this case for a long time, and I don't classify bots and helpers as two different things. I lump them under one umbrella, and for me, us like splitting them up has been the problem from the beginning. And I think I need to detail the bunch of issues with this proposal. Starting off, the wording is so vague, and it's not very clear at all. Like there's a bunch of different things of like, there's no real plan written in it at all. It's just like, can we just change the TOS? And like also it kind of like breaks down what classifies as a battle helper instead of just literally detailing these services, and like a bunch of unintentional negative effects will happen because of the way how he's had to like detail out what the helpers are. And for me, if you're going to attempt to do this here, which is a big thing, and trying to tackle the problem that we have in the game, you need to do it properly, otherwise you're going to like target the services and they might just react in a negative way. And if you're going to do it, we need to do this properly. But even though I said that like these points here, I'm going to break them down in a lot more detail now. But when it comes to like no real plan, literally it says a TOS change, doesn't detail any punishment, how we're going to like enforce this, or how we're going to tackle this, or how we're going to track these things. Because in reality, these battle helpers are literally untrackable. Like the only reason we were able to get like the bots and stuff like that out of modern was because we asked the services nicely. And then the services were like open to do that. So instead of like trying to do that approach again, we're trying to attack everything as a whole. We're trying to attack tournaments, balls. Balls is going to be the hardest one out of them all, because tournaments you can kind of like make a setting and then like ask the services to appeal it to that setting and like code towards that setting. But balls, how are we going to do that? In my I did make a video before, yeah, I'm going to put it up here, whichever side it's going to be. And I kind of like gave that a detailed explanation on like how we can tackle this stuff here. But as time's gone on and I've learned more things about it, I've got a much more better plan, which I'm going to make a video on in the future. But without any plan or tracking yet, it's going to be like, oh, I lost the game, you must be using a helper. And it's going to breed a lot more toxicness within the community that's not very needed. And considering trying to attack it as as a whole when it comes to like tournaments, balls and ranked mode, the services might just ignore it. We might end up just making a whole black market for these type of services for people to use. And for me, you need to kind of like, that sounds silly, but you kind of have to work with the services to kind of have like a middle ground. Because without the middle ground, yeah, we're just going to have the same problem that we had in the past. But let me get into some of like the unintentional negative effects that will happen, yeah. I'm going to have the wording that he has here on the screen so then you can see it. But let me explain like the repercussions of this. But from like the changes, the people that did like top three cards, like what I did, like top 3 reach cards and things like that, or best cards to use, them type of videos will be classed as help, because it says that you can't write down notes and give them to someone else, and that's literally what these videos are. And for me, these videos have been in gaming forever. Like you go to Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, Pokemon, they'll go, oh, best cards to use in this instance, best cards to use with this deck, and what we're going to do is just like try and phase them out for no reason. And then if people want to learn the game, how they're meant to do it, trial and error constantly, it's just a bit weird for me. And another effect of that is going to be, oh, we can't help each other, we can't give each other advice, because that'll be like giving each other the written down experience. So you see when you're on Splitland TV and you're telling a streamer, oh, you should play that card instead. You won't be able to do that. Even though these 2 points might be a little bit of a reach, but that's what's being written down. And if people wanted to try and be funny with it and use the term of service against someone, they can do that. And I feel like we need to like write down clearly what we want. And having this big explanation of what class is a helper, yeah, it's a bit silly to me. It's not needed at all. The next bit of text I've got up here, yeah, is going to be basically explaining something that Hawks made a great video on. But so I don't really want to copy and paste what he said, yeah, but I'm going to give a little short explanation of it. But I'll leave his video in the description below. But in reality, yeah, you won't be able to use like sites that tell you, oh, this is the best card to use. So remember I said about the videos, sites are going to be like exactly the same. So he's made a website which kind of helps you out. And on top of that, even though we might not have this already, but it will stop it for the future, which is coaching. Because you won't be able to have someone coaching you how to get better at the game. And for me, even though we might not have it in the game now, and we might not necessarily need it in the future, but putting that in the term of service, that just takes it out completely. So if you're an experienced player, you can't help a player that's learning. And for me, that hurts the new player experience, because if someone goes, oh, can I get some advice? Can you send me something? They're going to be like, I can't, it's against the term of service, I can't help you there. And for me, it's a bit weird, but Hawks made a great video explaining that, which I'm going to have in the description below. But these are just some of the unintentional negative effects that will happen here, but there's a lot more that I can't think of now, and we might not be able to think of now until it happens. So for me, it's best to like not vote for this proposal and redraft it and just literally tackle the services. Don't classify what classes as a helper and what doesn't. Just go literally automated team assembly helpers. Quite simple. Just keeping it could be one sentence. You don't need 4 different explanations for what class is a helper, because then it does affect other people and their playing styles. Even though I said this a little bit above, yeah, but this is going to be a wasted effort, and all it's going to do, yeah, is going to make it harder for us to actually get this done in the future if it didn't work in the first place. Because for me, you need the services on board. So attacking them completely outright, yeah, is not going to work. All you're going to do, yeah, is get a reaction for them, and I'm guaranteeing it, the reaction is not going to be what we want. It's going to hurt us in the future, and the little happiness that we've had recently with the changes to modern, that will go away. We'll go back to F1 us arguing in the tavern and everything else. And for me, we should probably not vote for this now, and we come back to this another day, restructure it, reword it, and then come back better and stronger. My last point on that, the negative effect shirt, is there's no detail on punishment at all. So for example, okay, I caught you using a helper. Now what? Like in reality, you're going to leave it into the team's hand. If you leave it in the team's hand, it's going to be a little tap on the wrist. Nothing's going to happen really. And odds are, the punishment they give them, people will be able to get around. Like for me, like the only way you can really target people properly is by putting a cooldown on the cards or things like that. Otherwise, because we have a blockchain game, we can actually send things from one account to another account. So you just like putting like a ban or something like that on one account won't really affect them, because they can move things over. You can say, oh, what about an SPS? That's alright. SPS is cheap to rent. Like we fought so much here for the SPS to be cheap for renting. That's going to be like a negative effect for us now, because people that get banned on one account, they can move things over to another account, rent the SPS, and they're good to go. The thing is, yeah, this proposal comes from a good place, yeah, it's got good intentions, but the wording is the problem. Like, we all want these services to be gone, and I know Dave definitely tried to make the attempt, but the way how he worded it just didn't work. As you can see, yeah, with the 2 proposals he's put, yeah, one's going through the quite high, like 90% pass rate, but this one is like in between. Like, it's the battling where it's like, oh, it could pass, it might not pass. And the reason is, yeah, is most people are blindly voting for this, and they're not really thinking about what the effects of this could be for like random parts of the game, random people, and definitely content creators. Because going forward, I'll feel weird if I can make a top 3 cards video, because it's like, oh, I'm helping you guys. Am I like infringing on the terms of service? Because I've written down notes, yeah, and I'm passing them on. That line alone, yeah, is just a real problem that as a whole. So for me, yeah, the intentions are great, but we need to like change the wording, and considering it's already gone through to the voting stage, it's too late for that. So for now, I feel it's best to just vote this one down and then come back to it with some better wording and not more structure, and just go for the services. That don't go for every little random thing within the game. Just go for the services, innit? But for me, that's just it. But in my next part of the video now, I'm going to explain to you the intentions behind this proposal. And because the intentions, like I said, were pure and great, but in reality, the wording was a problem. The worst part about this proposal, is in hindsight, it's amazing to attempt to get rid of the battle helpers, but there's so many negative effects, like I said to you already. But the intentions were so good and the idea was good, but the wording just destroyed the whole proposal as a whole. But let me explain the intentions behind it, because Dave has some great intentions, but I think maybe he needed to rewrite it and wait a little bit more time and maybe get some more insight from people before posting it. But the intention was to get rid of the battle helpers like Xbot, Backer, something, and Archmage has one in the works. And obviously the private ones are hard to actually reach out to and to target. But trying to go for the main ones is definitely a good idea. Some people will be like, oh, if you go for the public ones, the private ones will just rule. And there is definitely there's some merit to that idea, but not everyone can get access to the private ones. So the public ones being so accessible is the big issue. Because if you just go onto Hive Marketplace and go buy a token that gives you access to this, everyone's going to do it. But the private ones are kind of hard to get and not many people will use them. So in reality, if we get rid of the public ones, the private ones will be a lot more easier to catch. And in my mind, there'll be a lot less people trying to look for the private ones over having the public ones just promoted in your face and just having them in Discord chats and stuff like that. Because I'm not sure you see, but you have Sylar in the Discord kind of explaining his reasoning why he has the product and why it's good for the game. And definitely some of his intentions you can say are good. Because in his mind, it's oh, the battle helper is for practice and stuff like that. But then the bad thing that he says oh, the battle helper is there for people that can't spend all day to be good at the game. And for me, if you can't get good, you can't be rewarded for that. You can't be if you can't spend the time to get good at the game, you can't then have an advantage over the people that do spend that time. Because if that person then loses because this person had cheats to an extent, this other person could be why am I trying? What's the point? I might just join them. I did that in ranked mode. I botted in ranked mode for a long time, and my answer to that was bots were meta. So why am I not going to play the meta? When I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, I used to play tier 1 decks for the reason that they were meta. So in my mind, there was no choice for me. But the minute they were gone, I was thankful. And in reality, I was in the Discord arguing for these cases so much, and that was my answer all the time. I had an excuse. People could definitely go to me, oh, Zard, why don't you just play manual? Why don't you just fight against them? And in my mind, it's why am I going to fight against a giant when I'm not a giant? It makes no sense to me. So for me, he should have just targeted these services instead of trying to explain what these services were, and then instead of just going, these services are bad and the negative effect they have on the game. Instead of going, oh, this could be counted as a helper, this could be counted as a helper, and it didn't really help the proposal as a whole. But like I kind of stated a little bit in this video already, but battle helpers are really an issue within the game. Some people may go, the services may go to, oh, the battle helpers aren't that strong, so they're not really that much of a problem. And if you're a good player, you're not going to use them and you can combat them. Yeah, you can say that, but then say someone comes into the game and they're oh, how can I get my way to the top as quick as I can? Oh, you're the helper. And then you'll be literally on the same level as some of the best players, and it don't make sense to me. And any gamer that comes into this game is going to be what? So I can use all these little tools and stuff like that to not actually be good at the game? It's like having aim assist in Call of Duty. And in my mind, it's kind of scummy game. It's you're cheating the system. In reality, it's like having steroids in baseball. Everyone knew that they were being used, and the people that weren't using them felt salty. And the people that don't use these services are feeling salty with the people that are. And it's breeding toxicness within the community. And if you take it out, then the toxicness will slowly go away. Some people may be upset, that they have to get good at the game, or they have to spend time playing the game, and things of that nature. But in reality, we have this system called scholarships. The scholarship system was a big thing within Splinterlands, and that disappeared when the access to bots happened. We already had bots within the game, but everyone that's openly using them just deleted the scholarship system. And in my mind, the scholarship system is going to come back within the game, and people are like, oh, but the scholars are basically like human bots. And yes, to an extent, but at the same time, yeah, you're playing against someone that can make human errors. Human error versus human error. Not human error versus computer that won't make errors. Do you get what I mean? It's a lot more level pegging. And also, like, us like accepting bots within the game allowed certain people to call Splinterlands Botterlands, and I hated that. And the thing is, I couldn't argue against that, because everyone was using bots, and everyone was using helpers and stuff like that. And in my mind, us kind of separating bots and helpers just made more issues, because people go, oh, I don't use a bot, but then they'll use a helper. And in my mind, yeah, it's just all the same. And if you just get rid of them all, it's great. But in reality, trying to get rid of helpers is the biggest and hardest task. Bots was a lot easier. As you can tell, the team made great efforts on trying to get rid of bots within Modern, and it worked. Some people might not like the search times or the rating algorithm and stuff like that, but we can fix them. That's easily fixable. But taking out the bot share was a hard task, because the team had to accept it, the players had to accept it, and the services had to accept it. So now it comes down to the helpers, and now we're going to tackle them. We could have done them together, but we didn't. But now we're tackling the helpers, which is great. And I'm not sure if you've heard like this sentiment within the community now with the changes within Modern. F1 is so happy. We've even got some players returning to the game. So player retention, all they had to do was just get rid of bots, and suddenly player retention come back. Players were coming back, returning. I think it's great for the game, like future, and definitely it's growth, because when people come into the community now, they'll be talking strategies, showing their games and stuff like that, and that disappeared for a long time. Everyone talking about strategies within game disappeared, and it was all that was left was people complaining about bots. And now Modern's been changed for the better, and now we can only hope that it extends to tournaments and balls as soon as possible. But when it comes to helpers, we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer for a better proposal. Even though I'm saying like, yes, let's stop the helpers, I'm very well like not necessarily knowledgeable when it comes to these things, but I've talked to these services to like ask them how can we kind of have them out of tournaments, well specifically my tournaments and stuff like that. And in reality, the only way to stop them is asking these services nicely. And the only way that they're going to accept that and be willing to work with us is if we can divert their attention to somewhere else. Just the same way how the team had Modern and Wild split, we need to find a middle ground when it comes to the helpers, and where people can use them and where people can't. And people need to accept certain places we won't be able to have a free human experience, but we will have some places. And that's all we really want, because it's just better for the health of the game. So for me, tackling them all in one go and saying you can't be anywhere near the game, that's just not going to work. The services will either not listen to us, or worse of all, like people will start blaming each other, like I said. So in reality, if we can find a middle ground and then move forward like that and then craft a proposal for that, I'm pretty sure that the services will be on board. Just the same way they was on board with the Modern and Wild split. But my closing point with all this madness is going to be, we need the middle ground. We need to come together as a community with the services, with the team, and find a middle ground on where we can tackle this situation properly and how we can deal with it in a calm, relaxing, smart manner. Because in reality, we're never going to combat the private ones. Someone's going to go out their way and just go in an Excel sheet, put in the numbers, put in the data, and then pump out this cheat sheet, and there's no way around it. All we can combat is the public one, so then only a few people will do it, and then hopefully over time we can spot them people out, and if the term of services change, we could be like, that person's done it, can you sort them out? Even though like it will breed snitching, which is definitely something I don't like, but we kind of need some form of system where like we can deal with it. But at the same time, if you allow the wild to be where the bots and helpers be, and then have a tournament set in, so then we can be like, oh, we want it to be a decentralized tournament, so you can be allowed bots and all things like that. Then we can have normal tournaments without all this stuff. I feel like when we build a middle ground as a whole and then work out what Splinterlands could be like in the future, then we can make the proposal. Then I feel like everyone can vote a bit more freely on it. I feel a bit more relaxed with like their vote, and knowing that things will actually be done and actually have effect. As you can tell, I want to vote yes for this proposal so bad, but I can't overlook at the negative side effects that will happen from it. And the worst part is, I know a better proposal will come in the future, and For me, I'd rather wait till then than to like overlook the side effects that come from it, and rather than hope that it doesn't happen, I'd rather vote no now and come back with a better proposal in the future. But until then, like the video if you don't like battle helpers, and like I said, comment below what you think of the proposal. And subscribe for more Play to Earn content, and remember, be a shark in this world, not a whale. And we're going to see you guys next time.